Hello and welcome to Call to the Workforce. I'm your host, Emily Chipman, and today we're going to be talking to Margo about dealing with expectations from self and others. Welcome to the podcast, Margo.
Thank you.
We're so happy to have you. Margo graduated with a bachelor's degree in physical education, preparing her to go to med school or physical therapy school, and she ended up earning a master's degree in physical therapy. She's been practicing for over 20 years. She was a member of the American Physical Therapy Association for 11 years and became an APTA-credentialed clinical instructor in 2013. She earned a Corrective Exercise Specialist certification in 2017 and a dry needling certification in 2023. Her professional experience includes outpatient orthopedics, sports medicine, inpatient orthopedics, medical and surgical, aquatic therapy, industrial medicine, oncology, and vestibular rehabilitation. In her spare time, she also became a licensed foster parent. She's been doing this since 2021, and she really enjoys spending her time with family, traveling, playing outdoors, photography, smiling, and volunteering in the community. And I just have to say, because I think this will ground ourselves so well for the conversation, Margo, you have accomplished a lot professionally, and this is going to lead us right into what we want to talk about. As we progress and continue to develop ourselves, it's very natural for ourselves or for the people we work with to start thinking about what are the next steps. Companies talk about this like they talk about it in terms of a leadership pipeline. Who do we have in the pipeline to step in? They start thinking about those next roles. And Margo, you have accomplished a lot. You've learned a lot. And I imagine people have had some high expectations or hopes for you. Can you share with us your experience as people have put opportunities in front of you or had those expectations?
You bet. At one of my jobs, I hadn't been there long when my manager approached me and asked if I would consider being a manager of a clinic. And at first, I was a little bit hesitant, but I wanted to consider all of my options and opportunities for growth. So I let him know I would think about it. And after a few days of reviewing what my priorities are, reviewing what brings me the most joy and fulfillment, how I would be able to balance work and home, if there was a compensation increase. I reviewed, or I guess considered all of those things. And then I involved Christ in my decision and prayed about it a little bit. And I decided that although I was flattered by the opportunity, I wouldn't accept the position at the time.
And you would have been a really strong candidate and a really great person to be in a leadership role, right? Like we were talking a little bit beforehand about what are the qualities that would make you a great choice as a clinic manager.
Thank you. And yes, it is flattering when someone approaches you and wants you to take charge of a clinic. I'm very organized and punctual and friendly with my coworkers. I'm a good decision maker. I'm also pretty good at communication and a multitasker. So I think he saw those things, and that's why he considered me a good candidate for that position.
So I'd love for you to share a few things that just come to mind as we are thinking about this. One is, how did you turn him down? What did you say?
I did mention that I was flattered and that I did believe I have the skill set for it. But after thinking about what would work best for me at this time, I would need to decline taking the position right now. But I would consider it in the future or be open to the conversation later on down the road. And I did want to, that's how I turned him down. But also, I wanted to be true to myself as well as truthful with him in the things that I considered when taking the position.
Yeah. So as we think about this, what are walk us through a little bit more specifically in terms of principles other people could consider. How did you make your decision? What were you considering that really came up as You have accomplished a lot. It might seem like the natural next step, but what did you need to consider?
I needed to consider how much time that would leave for me outside of work as well as in work. I know managers are busy people and they do have extra things to take care of. And one of my biggest priorities is to have more time to spend with my family. So I thought about that. The other thing I thought about is, where do I find joy in my career? And it's with patient care, being able to talk to them and get closer to them, as well as be a good listener for them, educate them in how to take care of their bodies. And really, that's the way I felt most fulfilled, was helping people. Management is necessary, but I knew being a clinician is what would bring me the most joy. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, what I love about this is this is professional and leader development. And it's been, as we prepared to come on, I began thinking about several people I know who have stepped into leadership roles and then chosen to step back out because they realized when they got into the role that it wasn't where they found their greatest joy. It wasn't what they loved doing. And I think this is such a valuable perspective to have, that just because the opportunity is presented, for some people financially, it makes a difference. And so they're going to take it. For other people, that's not a factor that they feel like they need to consider. But I think this concept of an honest role or an honest job is a good one. I was sitting on an airplane next to a gentleman who, when I share what I do professionally, that I'm a leadership coach, it tends to elicit one of two responses. One, either someone tells me about their experience in leadership, or two, they have questions for me and they're like, "Oh, I have a captive I'm a captive audience." So I get their questions, right? This particular gentleman that I was talking to started talking about how he had stepped into leadership roles and he had come out because he loved what he did, which happened to be dealing with sewage. And I'm telling you, I don't feel joy. That is not the role that would bring me joy. This gentleman loves, I think it was like engineering sewage, or I don't know, it was something, but he found a lot of joy there. And he had just decided that this was going to be, he wanted to spend his time professionally in the place where he really felt like he was thriving. So I love that.
Emily, I was going to add to that. You're making a great point. In my career, the people that I'm working with are injured or they've had surgery and things like that. And they're not finding joy from rehabbing their injuries and their pains and things like that. But I do find joy in being able to explain to them, how their body needs to heal and the time it takes and why they need to do the things that they do, and guide them through that rehabilitation process so that they understand why I have a smile on my face as I'm hurting them.
helping them, helping them,
Yes,
and it
helping them.
takes a little bit of pain there. So, if you were going to sit down with a woman who has been provided an opportunity to consider an opportunity to step into a new role, knowing that everybody has different circumstances, what are the 2 or 3 wise pieces of sage advice that you would provide to her? What would you share?
I would say number one, figure out your priorities. Everyone is going to have different priorities, as you mentioned. Number two, if the financial motivation is there for you, you may want to consider that. For me, it was not something that was a big motivator for me at the time. And again, what is going to bring you the greatest fulfillment? That new position, stepping up, climbing the career ladder. Become familiar with those tasks and the things that you'll be doing day in and day out so that, okay, is this going to bring me the most fulfillment, or will it be, in my case, continuing to be a clinician and get to work with patients each day?
I love the confidence that you have in the decision that you made. There's no regret. It's truly grounded in, this is what I feel is best for me. So I also know that there are times that you have stepped into new roles, either because you switched companies or lateral types of moves. So tell us about how you learned and managed expectations in those situations, because maybe it's not stepping into a leadership role, but when we do step into any new role, there's new expectations.
So true. As I transitioned to a different company in my career, I didn't know the specific policies or procedures. Initially, I tried to find the policies, searching the company website, and then sent some questions to my manager. But he was very busy and I didn't get any clear answers back. Eventually, I was able to meet with him, which was great. It was a face to face meeting rather than Zoom, which I love the value in that, pros and cons to both. And I was able to show him I was interested in knowing what my expectations were at that new company. I got some clear answers to my questions and I was able to get to know my manager better. And I think he also learned a little bit more about what my strengths were and discovered that by this meeting that the two of us were able to have while I was still in the newer stages of being an employee there.
I love this because it does show that you had to have persistence with it. I don't always hear people say, I've been searching the policies and procedures manuals. That doesn't always feel like the most exciting place to start. But it sounds like you really did look in all the places that you could. I'm curious for you, were there other places or other resources that you turned to as you tried to figure things out? Did you have coworkers who helped? Did you have other people that you were able to talk to? What were there any other resources?
I did try and talk with my coworkers who are very helpful people or were very helpful people in this situation. At the end of the day, the expectations are really, they come down from management and administration. So I had to consider that. And that's why I was a little bit more persistent with the route with my manager and also wanted to meet him. The written communication that I had the chance to go the back and forth just with my questions also helped me be more confident and accountable. So I was confident that I knew what he expected from me and that if something wasn't answered, I can't be held accountable for something I didn't know. And these are just the little intricacies of working with different companies or things like that, which was a little bit surprising because I had experience in my career. But again, new roles, new job, I learned, oh, okay, I need to be persistent. I need to be open to different ways of doing things here at this company. And in the end, I think my manager and I really got to know each other a lot better.
I do want to just make a note that so many times when people step into new roles or they're in a new company, what they want to do is prove themselves. And part of that sometimes is I want to show you what I already know. And you've taken a different approach to say, I may be very experienced and I need to know what I don't know. I need to know how the company does it in a nuanced way. So, what principles would you share with just to say if there's two or three things that you remember from this? What do you hope someone remembers and takes away?
I hope that they remember an anxiety provoking situation can turn into a good opportunity.
I think you were very wise in recognizing that through your anxiety, what at least what I hear is you took steps to address it. And then you were still wise in saying, what is the source of the information? And is it the right source that I should be getting it from? I'm sure sometimes your peers were dead on and 100% correct. And then sometimes maybe there was a little nuance that was a little bit off.
Right. And you have to acknowledge what you do know and what you don't know and which places are going to be the best source.
I hope that everybody who's listening has that chance to either be reflecting on sometimes we've been in a role for a while and we take on a new task. And I think these are still important things to be keeping in mind that if you get a new task, it's still important to be asking these questions and to be learning and be thinking about what is the vision that management would give. So I love how you have taken this time to really figure out the expectations from the company. And I want to add a more specific um, challenge to our plate now. So, we mentioned at the beginning that you have become a foster parent, which is technically actually a job. And that means that you now have two jobs and you are now a single parent. And I would love to know how you have balanced the expectations of two employers. So, as context for anybody listening, Margo does actually have to show up to, correct me if I'm wrong, Margo, but you have to show up to court appointed meetings. There literally are meetings associated with the foster parent job. So, there's these two roles, and you want to have this meaningful life. First of all, can you walk us through the experience of choosing to step into this role?
Absolutely. So I think it's always wise to have bigger dreams than fears. And I had a dream, and it was continuing to be on my mind, at the front of my mind, that I had a baby that I didn't know with me. And I fell in love with it so quickly. And it opened my eyes to fostering. So I acted on it after trying to push it off to the side. But I felt so strongly about this dream that I, as quickly as I could, did what usually takes 6 months to do in 3 months, which was become a licensed Utah foster parent. And after I was licensed, what you don't understand is, or what some people may not understand is, you don't have 9 months to prepare for that child like a regular pregnancy. I'm in one job as a clinician, which I have to go to that job as well. I can't Zoom or work from home. And I get a call, and you have 15 minutes, whether or not, or to decide whether or not you are going to take that placement into your home. So I have been blessed to have three different children in my home thus far, two of which I have brought home from the hospital. And it's been an amazing and more fulfilling experience than perhaps work.
Let's start with this with your expectations of yourself. And Margo, as I have come to know you, I know that you like to do things right and well. I think we heard that in the last story. And I know you would want to do a really good job in caring for these babies and also continuing to do a good job at work. How have you managed the expectations of yourself? Because that's a lot to expect.
Let me think about that. I think managing my expectations is a daily battle, quite honestly. And that's where I think I have had to prioritize what I can accomplish each day. And there are a few things that I thought through, maybe principles that I thought about in becoming a foster mom. And that was using or leveraging a support network. As a single parent, you need all sorts of support. So having family support can help you with childcare, neighbors that can help you for a couple hours, a few hours. With fostering, you can't just have anyone babysit. So there's extra criteria that make it more difficult to find people. They have to be background checked and fingerprinted and things like that. So leveraging my support network was one thing I thought about. And then managing my time. How was I going to find the time to do this?
Yeah.
That's something I have had a lot of training in my career becoming successful at. And that there's no time to waste. When I have a patient with me, I have to figure things out quickly, problem solve in a specific amount of time, and have some results and be successful at accomplishing the task. So I applied that to working full time in a clinic as well as being a full time parent. Financially, fostering is costly. So having lived within my means has helped me prepare for going months without an income. That was one of the things I explored was the resources I have available to me through my job, which is FMLA, the Family Medical Leave Act, which means your job is secured for 12 weeks, but you are not paid during that time, at least in my company's policies. And then I was off for 3 months with no pay. So financial planning, just good planning, period, helped me prepare to be able to foster, and then budgeting my monthly expenses because childcare and licensed daycare are very expensive. So I knew I would need to figure out childcare and make that possible once I returned to work. That absolute joy that I feel when fostering these children really, or being a mom to these children, rather, I'm the lucky one. It really outweighs the challenges and the difficulty and the sleepless nights when you're getting up feeding and those kinds of things. But also, I've always wanted to be a mother. And this is one way I have been able to accomplish that.
I love the support network that you spoke about earlier. So one of the things we talked about is and you mentioned this just a little bit ago, is finding your community of support. So I want to talk a little bit about your experience of finding your communities of support from a faith perspective. And it's my understanding, and I love this, that you have found a community of support from people of many different faiths. And I was wondering if you could share with us the story of how that developed and maybe some principles for other people who might be looking for a similar community.
Yes, I did mention my family as a support network, my neighbors, and my coworkers. So about 10 years ago, I was dealing with just some very significant challenges in my personal life. And so were a couple of my coworkers. And we decided to get together outside of work so that we could have dinner and watch a show together. And to this day, 10 years later, we're still doing that because there is so much value in it. But it was the kindness that attracted me to these women. And again, their support and the attributes you think of when you think of Christ and the type of people you want to surround yourself with. And it wasn't until we were maybe 5 years into this tradition that I even learned what their spiritual practices or faith was. I just knew we had different faiths, but it was so wonderful to have such a deep love for all people, regardless of what their formal faith is, and become such great friends. And they have been so supportive of me through good times, through bad. With my babies, they've brought me gifts. They've been so generous. And I have prayed to my Father in heaven about how blessed I feel and how grateful I am to have these women in my life. And another principle I've learned through this whole experience is that I shouldn't be afraid to pray when I am with my coworkers or my friends when they are of other faiths. And I feel like that has allowed me to let them know how much I appreciate them and acknowledge them. And it bonds us together, I think, a little bit stronger, even though we don't share the same religious or spiritual practices. And that really has made me happy. I Friends and a support network are a big deal to me. I very much need to talk back and forth, share stories. That's part of my therapy. Yes.
So tell us, what does it look like when you talk about praying with is this like I'm praying at the dinner table? What does that look like?
Good question. It's praying at the dinner table because we have dinner before we watch the show and we talk and catch up. I ask them, are you guys okay if I pray on our food? And I, in that prayer, express my gratitude for them and ask for blessings to be with all of us and in their home, and that they will have joy because of the support that they bring to me, the hospitality and the generosity and love that they show toward me. I bring up in that conversation and or prayer with my Father in heaven. And they're all very supportive and they feel that love. And I think, again, it's focusing on our the things that we are similar in and helps us feel more love for each other and that need and desire to support each other.
I am inspired hearing this story and thinking about the experiences I've had with good friends from other faiths who I do think there's something about sometimes it takes time before we're ready to share that part of our life. I don't think that I would have shared those experiences with everybody that I worked with, though we were good friends. But as time came, it's been very interesting. And I feel like I've been encouraged and inspired as I see other people living their faiths as well. So, as we always like to, I want to make sure that we give you a chance to give a final message of encouragement or hope to other women. Before we do that, though, I just want to see if there is anything as you think about these principles of finding a community, what principles would you share with other women who are looking for that community? Are there two or three things they could do, expectations they want to keep in mind or balance?
I would say, honestly, if you are looking for that supportive, loving, kind friend, you need to emulate that. And doesn't matter what that person looks like or talks like, but you never know how those people will show up in your lives. And sometimes angels are disguised as friends. So
Yeah.
that's what I
Thank
would say.
you. Margo, you have shared some wonderful things with us today. And I'm so appreciative of all of these things that you've walked us through about considering as opportunities are presented to you. And it can feel like there's pressure to step into roles. You did such a beautiful job of expressing appreciation and also leaving the door open for future opportunities and considering wise perspectives. As you've stepped into roles, you've taken the time to learn those expectations. And then I love that you have been realistic in thinking of your expectations of yourself, that there are times that you have to say no or step back and take care of yourself. What words of wisdom would you want to leave a woman with? The thing that might be dearest to your heart, a message of hope or encouragement?
The thing that would be nearest and dearest to my heart wouldn't surprise you because my career is about the body and being healthy. And that is respect your body. How can we meet the expectations that we have of ourselves if we don't have the energy to do it? Do something active every day. Maybe it's even a deep breathing exercise, but do something for 5 minutes. That physical health and emotional health go hand in hand. And one observation I've made as I have made a practice of respecting my body is when family units are struggling, or there's a group of people that you want to serve, or someone else who needs help, I can do that best when my body is healthy and strong.
Are there some principles you could give to, and I so much appreciate this, are there principles you could give to women who may feel like finances are tight or time is tight? Because I know sometimes that can feel hard. You've seen a lot of different versions of health. What would you share with people who are thinking, I need to get started, or I feel like there's limited time or resources?
I would say doing an activity doesn't have to cost you money. It can be just taking a walk for 5 minutes. It can be a breathing exercise. Like I said, your mental health and physical health go hand in hand. It is hard to, it feels hard to get started, but it doesn't have to cost a lot. And the other thing I rely on is my faith and my faith in Jesus Christ because I know enough that I cannot do things on my own. So I really do involve the Lord in those things I need to accomplish. And I pray for his help. And I've recognized that and seen quite a difference because I think sometimes I do get a little extra help to accomplish those things. And my body is invigorated and feels a little bit stronger than I might feel inside.
I am so appreciative for your wise counsel today and the things that you've shared. I want to thank everybody for joining us and listening today. As you know, we try to release episodes about once a week. If this is something that was a helpful podcast, we hope that you will share it with others. And just a reminder that you can always follow us and watch on the major platforms, including YouTube. And if you want a reminder of the upcoming podcasts, you can sign up for reminders at our website at www.calltotheworkforce.com. Take care, everyone, and we will see you soon.